welcome back. This time we're in desktop for a quick tutorial. Well, hopefully not quick, actually. The quick is like the actual opposite word for this one, about how to process your medical image scans into Neos. So for those who are unaware, I keep, occasionally I'll mention it or show it, etc. And people are always amazed because they haven't realized it's here. I have a bunch of medical scans that I've imported into Neos. So I've done it in such a way where I hopefully don't dox myself too much, but even if I do, it's kind of fine. And inside this world, which you can load, it's public, it's inside Neos, you just open it up and you can take a look around. Medical image examples, you'll see there are a bunch of scans from me. And people keep seeing this and they're like, hey, I want to do this too. And so this is going to be a tutorial for how to get that sorted with your scans. So as a quick reminder, what we've got here is MRIs. You can process MRIs. This is an MRI of my brain. You'll see here is my brain. I can also spin this around and there you go, there's my face. Or over here, there's another MRI. This one's a lower power MRI, so it doesn't have the color over there. There's also leg x-ray, chest x-ray, the MRI frames, which are like the two-dimensional frames, and then over here is an upper chest CT. Basically anything that you can get from your doctor will work. An important note there is that if you've had a scan at a medical facility, they are usually able to give you those results, and that's why I've got them over there. All you need to do is ask. There's usually a records department that can get those records to you. I think there might even be some sort of policy or law or something like that which is guaranteeing that you have access to those because it's medical records. I don't know, mileage may vary depending on where you live. Just ask your provider. If they say no, you've lost whatever, like half an hour to call them. If they say yes, then you're step one away from looking at your brain or whatever else you've been scanned inside of Neos. So do that, and then you'll probably be given a CD. So you'll need a CD drive. I've got one of those like USB CD drives. I just like get out of a cupboard whenever I need to use CDs because my actual computer doesn't have a CD drive. Let's be honest, who uses CDs right now? The medical records department, that's who. Once you've got that CD, you're also going to need a couple of other things. So I'm going to go ahead and switch around some scenes and try and inevitably to not dox myself, but maybe dox myself to show you what you'll need. So the second thing that you need once you have that CD is this piece of software here called DICOM 2. It is an open source command line program, which I don't know if it's open source, but hey, it's freely available. And it's able to extract what's called DICOM information and convert it into PNGs, which is what we need. DICOM is, I don't know what it stands for, but it's basically the standard for medical files. So pretty much every scan I've seen has been DICOM. I don't particularly know why it's the standard, but like, hey, it just is. And it allows you to convert it into PNGs, which is what we need. So you can go ahead and download this. There's a download link here. If you're on Windows, which most of you stereotypically are, then you'll just get an exe here, which is great. Just have this exe to hand. You could put it on your path, and then you'll be able to access it anywhere from your computer. If that didn't make sense to you, just copy and paste this exe directly into the contents from your disk. With that said, make sure that disk is inside of your computer and then copy all the files off the disk. We want them off the disk. The reason why we want them off the disk is because disks are gross. Take them off the disk and then unplug your USB disk drive and put it back in the cupboard. Once you've got that sorted, you'll end up with something along the lines of this. These are the contents from one of the disks I got with one of the medical scans that I had. You'll see a bunch of stuff here that it might be confusing, and that's okay. We'll kind of try and go through it. Every disk will be different, though, depending on where you got the scan. The most notable thing here is I've gone ahead and I've moved DICOM 2.exe. That's directly the download that I got from that website that I put there. That'll also be in the video description. I've just put it inside that folder, and this is just extracted straight off the disk. There's usually an exe here, and you should run this exe, and it will usually load some application that allows you to view your images. It might be a little bit confusing, but just keep pushing like reports, your name, files, whatever, and eventually you'll get exactly what you need. To prove that, I'm going to go ahead and change some stuff around. I'm going to be, once again, careful here. There we go. There's the censorship bar of blueness. And we can go into what I got. So I just kept pushing buttons, and eventually I got this. And so this is the actual scan data, and I can scroll through it how a doctor might on a 2D screen and take a look at my scans. It's really cool. But this is in 2D. We want it in 3D. So if you see this, you know that you're in the right place, and you know that you've got everything that you need. So if we tab back over to the MRI data. We can get rid of Mr. Blue Bar. And then we just need to look around. And what you're looking for is the DICOM data itself. Now, it's kind of difficult to find out where this might be. You kind of have to get an intuition about it. You kind of have to sort of figure out what is on this CD, where do I need to find stuff. I'm able to help you, but just like rummage around. And if I do help you, then unfortunately I basically need your medical information, so only do that if you're comfortable with me doing that and helping you. Otherwise, try and figure out yourself. This is why I'm making this tutorial. So from my memory, this CD has this folder here called 1331. That's great. So if you find a folder that, it won't be the same number, but like if it's a folder like this and it contains a bunch of other folders that contain a bunch of files in them, then you found the right location. This is just sort of all random files. And if you open this file in like a text editor, you might see like DICOM2 at the top. It'll be gobbledygook because it's a binary file, but at the top you'll see some sort of like indicator that it's like DICOM. So that's great. So what's the next thing that we need to do now that we've located it is we need to get a command line open. For those who don't know, command line is where you run this command line application. And for those of you who don't know, if you hold Shift, so I'm holding Shift on my computer and I'm right-clicking in empty space inside my file browser here, I can then do open PowerShell window. That'll work with anyone. So inside here, you'll see that I've got this. Let me see if I can make the text bigger. Can I make it even bigger? Yes, I can. I can go to font and I can make this very big. There we go. Hopefully that should be big enough. And then inside here, if I run dicom2.exe, which you can see is in the folder here, dicom2.exe, you'll see I get this, which is basically telling me how to use it. That means great. That means you've got a perfectly running version and that you can get started. So I'm going to go ahead and do dicom.exe, and then all you need to do is -p. -p, that'll also be in the video description, and then pick one of the files or folders inside that 1331 folder or whatever it's called for you. So I'm going to go 1331, and I think 1337 is good. So I'm going to do that, and nothing happened. That's okay. I'm going to just do that. Cool. I don't know what any of this means. Like I said, I don't even know how to use this exe. Like I just read it until I started producing PNGs. So here I've converted 1331, 1337, 13263. So let's go inside. 1331, 1337, 133263. That's the file that I just converted. Great. I converted gobbledygook. Nice. All right, we're back from an edit. I don't usually like to edit my videos, but I was just sort of having a bunch of fun there. The problem I had was I wasn't using -p. You need to make sure -p is there or it won't work. So I converted 1331, 13327. Let's go have a look at that. Oh, actually, we're still in that folder. Fantastic. So now we can open up this PNG and see what we've got. It's normal for there to be a bunch of black frames. If you can't see anything immediately, remember that you can use View and go to Large Icons and see what we got. All right, here we go. We got everything that we need. So this is a side view MRI. So if I open this up, now we can go through them here like this. And we have everything that we need. There's a lot of images there, and oh, don't worry about how small they are as well. Like it when there's this much data, it doesn't really matter. So now that you have the files, you'll just have to sort of again play with that. I'm sorry if it's difficult. I can help, but again, if I help, then I gain access to your medical information by the nature of just doing it. So if you're okay with that, happy to help. If you're not okay with that, maybe ask questions and I'll be able to help. On the file browser here, I've right-clicked and I've ensured that type is selected. I have that by default, like on all of my file browsers, but that isn't a default option. So make sure that you have that enabled, and then you can sort by type. And what that does is it separates the files, this is the DICOM data, from the PNGs. We only want the PNGs. So we scroll all the way to the bottom, and we hold Shift. And then what I'm going to do is actually cut. So that's Control X. You can also do right-click and then cut. So I'm going to do, now that menu's open, I'll do that. And then I'm going to go up the folder to here, to a new folder. And I'm just going to call this PNG side. And then we hit paste. So now I have all of the all of those images just in there one folder. That's what you need. So no other files, just the PNGs here, and all by themselves. And then remember this folder path here that you've got. Not my folder path, of course, but your folder path. And then we can finally switch back to Neos. Now we're back in Neos. We can go ahead and hit escape, and we can go to our file browser. And inside my file browser, you can see I've already navigated to the directory above the one that I need to be in. So this is my tutorials folder. Within my mess of my my Neos folder, and inside here I have MRI, and then I have MRI, and then we can see PNG side here. So here are all the PNGs inside Neos. So with all those PNGs done, I can import one just to double check. So I'm going to import this one here. We always want one that's in the middle of the scan, so you can see that there's data there. So that's great. That's on the sort of edge of the head, but that's still great. That shows me that I'm in the right folder. So now over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to the folder above it. I'm going to select this folder, and I'm going to push this little button here. With this button pushed, I'm then going to hit escape so I can get back to here, and it brings up this thing, folder importer. And what we want it to do is select this one in the middle here, image slices as volumetric texture. And this is where the magic happens. Now this takes quite a long time, so I hope your day is going well. There we go, it's done. It's going to launch into a big spiel about how your day was and everything like that. Don't need to anymore. And you can see that kind of looks like my head. It brings in this. So this is the, I call these ravioli kind of affectionately, but this is the slicer, like the same slicer as over there. And it allows you to slice stuff up, which is great. And what I suggest doing here to sort of get a hang of it is set this to hit threshold to start with. Set this to opaque. And then if you drop this step size down, the lower that you drop this down, the more bandwidth and processing this is going to take. So do be careful. And then you'll need to play around with input range and input offset. There we go. That's a bit better. So I'm going to turn this upside down. It's going to look horrifying as well. Just keep this in mind. It's going to look absolutely horrifying. Just double check the settings over here that I've got. Hit threshold and alpha. And then play around with the input range again. And maybe drop the hit threshold just a little bit. So you can see the lower the hit threshold goes, the more data that we get. So here you go. This is my head. Now things are going to look weird. I assure you I'm not like this weird squished man thing. And that's just because in an MRI scan, stuff gets a little bit distorted. So in this case, they've cut off my nose and a bit of my front of my face, and also my ears and my hair, of course, and it's a little bit stretched. So do keep that in mind. It's a medical scan. It's not going to look really nice. So inside that, once that's done, you can now see that it's a head, which is fantastic. Now, there is currently a bug with these slices. You'll see it's not slicing. And the reason behind it is this menu is broken. I don't particularly know why this menu is broken, but this menu is broken. So if you inspect this slicer doodad, you'll see that there is a mode here, and you can change this to slice, and then it will work. And now you can see that we've got the same thing as over in the corner there. It's really creepy. Kind of see into my brain. So now that that's done, I'm going to switch back to the original files over here, because those are just, this one was just imported now, whereas this one I know is a good file and has a good set of settings because I imported it a long time ago and spent hours tweaking the settings here. So this is exactly the same setup here, and you can slice through it, but I do want to talk about the settings a little bit. So over here on the settings, you'll see volume unlit material. That's what's actually driving this. I believe it's ray-marched. I was reading the shader code the other day, and I'm like, cool. That also explains why if you put your head inside this, your FPS will die, so don't do that. Additionally, if you're struggling, you've got a lower powered PC, then do up this step size. It will make the scan less detailed, but it will enable you to survive. So let's go through the settings. So at the top here, hit threshold is the mode where you can kind of see it a little bit like the frames, a little bit like the frames, you know, that a doctor might see, where you've got sort of gray to black for the outlayers of the flesh, and then it usually is sort of gray and white for the brain. The place I got this MRI done, it's colored. I don't really know how they did that or why they did it, but it does highlight different parts of the brain, and I found it really cool. I was speaking to some medical professionals, and they were like, "This is the first colored MRI scan I've seen." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." It was a sort of brand new MRI room, so maybe it's newer technology. I don't know. It was also 3T, which stands for 3 Tesla. So hit threshold will show it like this. You can also go to there's this preset here, but you can just copy the settings as well. This is additive, and then you can kind of see into the brain from an additive point of view. With that, it's really cool because you can scroll through input offset like this, and you'll see the different parts of the brain light up. So here's all the connective tissue that links all the parts of the brain together. That's called white matter. It's basically, you know, that cable box in the bottom of your cupboard. Yeah, it's that. You can also do input range, and that kind of goes through the range a little bit more. And then if you mix input range and input offset, you can get some really cool visual effects. So there, for example, you can kind of just see the outside layer of the head. In fact, there, I don't know if you can see it on the footage, there's like a join in the skull there, I think. I'm not sure. I'm not a medical person. But you can see all sorts of details when you play around with these. So that is the input range. Gain and exposure basically turn up how bright it is. So you can see here when I turn gain all the way down, it goes invisible. When I turn gain all the way up, you'll see it's really bright. And then exposure is kind of the opposite. Oh, I'm not even dragging exposure now. When you turn it all the way down, you get much brighter. When you turn it all the way up, you get sort of a finer thing here. Accumulation threshold is something to do with additive cutoff, I believe. I haven't really quite figured that one out. But there you go. Those are all the settings. If we go over to this other scan, as a reminder, it can do other stuff that isn't MRI. So up here is my upper chest CT. You'll see exactly the same UI, even though it is a different type of scan. So again, here, gain. We'll turn up the gain here. So if we go all the way up here, this looks more like you might see, you know, on the 2D point of view, etc. And then again, input range on the additive mode. So we go additive will have that that kind of zoomy. We have to go there and then there. Yeah, it's really just trial and error once it's in there. Once it's in as a 3D texture, the medical information has gone because Neos has taken all of those PNGs and converted them into a 3D texture. And in the process of doing that, it loses all of the data that might be inside those PNGs that was inside that DICOM data. So once it is inside Neos, it is safe to you know, use, share around, take a look at with people, call me in for help if you want to sort of get some visualization going. And just play around with, because there's no, you know, personal information in there. I hope that helps. I know that was a long-winded tutorial. Sometimes these things get really, really complicated. I did sort of debate not making this video because of how complicated it was, but so many people have been like, I got a scan 4 years ago, and I want to see it in Neos. And so I hope this helps. This video has had probably the most editing required of any of the videos that I've done, so I hope you enjoyed. Oh, and if it's just single slices like this in X-ray, DICOM will still work. You just have to find folders that have like a smaller number of images. So this will just be one picture rather than you know, multiple files. So that would still work. You just have to find it there. For X-rays, I only have these 2 examples. So if you have any issues with X-rays, do let me know. Chest and leg there. That's all I got for you. I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.